because I think we're already
Okay.
alive.
Yeah. No, I mean it's an important topic because I think it plagues a lot of people, organizations, and one of the biggest things that I've seen working with entrepreneurs over the years is how it squanders talent and opportunity, when we do that. So I think it's a great topic. Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. Like we started, I will be say, hi everyone. It is Riya and Houng, and we are so excited to be back with another powerful episode to help you break free from self-sabotage and step into your full potential.
Hmm.
Last week, we explored the difference between intention and the goals
Hmm.
and how set up the meaningful intention can drive really success. And this week, we will be talking about the silent killer, professionals. Highway.
Hello.
So, hello everyone. So we talk about the professionals. If you are ever feel that paralyzed by the fear of making mistake or
Hmm.
constantly waiting for perfect moment to start it, this app show is perfect for you. We will dive in deeper into how professionals lead to that self-sabotage and move more importantly, how you can break free
Hmm.
from chosen process over professionals.
Yeah. No, I think this is a great topic because we live in a time now where it's so with technology and how quickly things move, it's so much more forgiving for making mistakes. Whereas before, sometimes if you just 10 years ago, 15 years ago, if you made a mistake, it's stuck for a while and you're like, it's a lot more triggering. Yeah, you're right. It is a big silent killer, perfectionism. It's also known as analysis paralysis, the fear of making a mistake, and so you out of that fear, you don't even take that step forward, fearing that you're going to fall off the cliff or something, and then nothing ever gets done or nothing progresses. I mean, we were just talking about that when we're going live, is that I've seen over the past 2, 3 decades so many brilliant, amazing people squander their talent and skills and to perfectionism, and
Mm.
never stepping up into the light that they belong in. So, yeah, let's definitely talk about that. It's a big self-sabotage piece for sure. Yeah.
Definitely. I think for myself, I really understand or have the pain of professionals, how that to block what my work
Yeah.
sometimes.
I mean, just our Asian
Sometimes,
culture, being Chinese.
yeah, being Chinese, welcome to being Chinese. Well, we do have some very wonderful cultures way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I wanted to say here to share, recognize it, that the professionals sometimes is the trap. How
Mm-hmm.
that the professionals lead to the progress of self-sabotage
Right.
because you can stuck there, work over again, and raising
Mm-hmm.
so much stress, then raising so much couldn't move forward.
Right.
So
Right.
how we can shift that to the different way, move forward. I think number one is this focus on the small step rather than
Mm-hmm.
the that big outcome. What do
Yeah.
you think about that?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good tactic in terms of optimizing that. I think one of the things a lot of people will, people who are perfectionists will constantly find ways to justify their perfectionism. And let's be real here. There's nothing wrong with having a high standard. You and I have a high standard for ourselves and how we operate in the world. And there's a healthy way to do it, but there's absolutely an unhealthy way to do it. And that's what we're addressing today, the perfectionism, where your high standard then gets used to create a self-sabotage pattern. And what you're talking about here is sometimes perfectionism becomes used to create a moving target of never good enough, right? And then all of a sudden, the task that you're wanting to work on gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And one of the tactics that you just mentioned there is, well, let's go back to chopping it up into little bits and pieces to create small wins, small perfect wins, right? Like if you're looking to run a mile and you're like, I can never do the mile in so long, right? And then you say, okay, great. Well, if you broke the mile down to how many steps it would take for you to run it, right? And on
Mhm.
average, how fast did each of those steps need to take? You could build up to that. Let's say you're supposed to do 5 steps in 1 second. Then you build up to doing 5 steps in 1 second. Don't worry about the mile yet. You just work it little by little, and eventually you'll hit that perfect goal, but you break it down so you don't you end up not so you don't end up not running it ever, right?
Yes, definitely. That's what I said. Sometimes, but believe us, we want to say perfectionist. Sometimes it's good. That is your strength because you want to make sense. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
But not then we say the balance is that I really understand when sometimes I work with my assistant one project. I think that should be move faster, but because I'm cut off with so little small things like, oh, this design, little bit alignment,
Mm-hmm.
this
Mm-hmm.
word is cut off with that, that's stop the block that move more fast.
Mm-hmm.
How do we the shift is focus like a small, what is that process? I think embrace the grow by allow the room for the mistake and the
Right.
adjustments.
Yeah.
That is really important to remove, not remove, to move forward with professionals.
Right. And just remember, nothing is permanent. The Buddhist philosophy, they talk about all the time, human beings' greatest suffering comes from our incessant desire to hold on to that which is impermanent, right?
Mhm.
And when we realize that, hey, there's a great mantra to have if you're a perfectionist that you want to adopt that'll help keep your perfectionism from keeping things from moving forward, which is good enough, and then being able to come back knowing that you can come back and edit, you can come back and refine. I just had this conversation with our team over at Human Up this past week, and what was really interesting was that there was during the meeting an ownership of a mistake that was made, and other people started owning up to them, which is great. I love the vulnerability, I love the authenticity, and at the end, as a leader, I said, hey, one thing I wanted to point out and acknowledge all of you on is the willingness to take ownership of making a mistake because honestly, being perfect stifles growth. Making mistakes is how human beings evolve, how we grow, how we expand. And the more mistakes we make and take ownership and recognize and embrace it, the faster we actually grow. The more we strive for perfection, the slower we grow as people.
Definitely. I think the one thing, how do you shift that mindset also to aware and to celebrate the small wins,
Mm-hmm.
to acknowledge the progress when you
Mm-hmm.
build the momentum, that
Right.
also with the confidence.
Mm-hmm.
As what I said, like before, I was working on the process. Sometimes I was looking for what's the outcome. But really, in that progress, when you're working, I learned so much the skills, and also that skill will be moved forward. Is with another project
Mm-hmm.
that is will be celebrated. When you start to celebrate, that's raising so much confidence.
Yeah. And it goes back to what I say to my clients all the time is that, we learn nothing from our successes, but we learn everything from our failures. We've been cultivated to fear failure so much. And I can't help but think about, is this a way to control the masses? If all of us fear failure, then all of us can grow slower. So we can't evolve, right? But yeah, I mean, and people say, well, what do you mean you learn nothing from success? I read about other people's success all the time. It's like, yeah, you can model success and learn from other people's successes. But when you succeed, it's just proof that you learned from a previous mistake on how to succeed. So you
Also,
don't.
I like you said, learn from another's success.
Hmm.
That also you is not so shortcut, but you get so inspired,
Hmm.
and also you learn something. You don't have to take a long way, right?
Hmm.
That's why I think have coaches, have some mentor. It's
Hmm.
really important in the life. We
Right.
are not perfect, as we say. We are, cannot see something behind us.
Right.
Then we have some people more success than us, than
Yeah.
leading us, help us.
Yeah.
That is really important part to grow.
Yeah. And I think, we're not perfect, nor should we strive to be. You know, I think when it's kind of like when I say, the day I stop learning something new or learning something else or falling down and getting up is really the day I should die because then what's the point, right? And it really comes down to perfection. And perfection is kind of a farce because one, it's subjective, right? Not everybody has the same definition of what perfect is. So when we strive for that, I think a different word should be placed into that, right? Having a standard of growth or excellence or standard of performance. But perfectionism, I think it's a trap, like you're saying. It's kind of a trap that keeps us in a state of perpetual self-sabotage.
Oh, hold on, wait. I love that. Very juicy. You said changing that professionals to have a standard of the progress,
Hmm.
right? And
Hmm.
also maybe celebrate in the process.
Hmm.
So look what you learned in the process, what the mistake that you can convert in the process as the gift or as another talent you go
Hmm.
through with that.
Right.
That will be help you shift so much stress than
Yeah.
to, I think, to more how to continue this work. Shift the stress to more clarity.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think if we could redefine what perfectionism is a simple question. Is whatever you're doing or is what you just did moving the needle forward in some shape or form, right? Are you growing in some direction? Did you achieve some small win? Is there one small step forward, right? And even if it's a
Mhm.
lateral step so that you can, pivot and adjust to a different, that's also moving the needle, right? And I
Yes.
think if those who suffer with perfectionism can kind of work on redefining that a little bit and restructuring how they think about perfectionism as is this moving me forward, right? Or is this
Hmm.
moving the needle in some direction that is beneficial to my overall desires and goals in life? Then great, that's perfect, right? When you
Yes.
fell and you failed, did you get up and keep going and glean the learnings from that experience? Great, that's perfect,
I
right?
would like to give the 4 tips how help you to break free from this.
Hmm.
So that's 4 tips. I think number one is identified where's the perfectionist is holding you back. Where you be more aware about that. Then
Yes.
second one is shift your mindset to progress over perfectionism.
Hmm.
Then number three is celebrate the small wins and
Hmm.
build unstoppable momentum.
Hmm.
That's very important, help you.
Right.
Then the fourth is take imperfectionist actions and still success.
Yeah, become perfectly imperfect. I think that being as imperfect as possible. In fact, I tell teams all the time, especially sales teams, like this week nobody is allowed to make one sale. Everybody has to fail with the goal of learning from that failure. If you made a sale, you failed this week because this week is all about failing up, so you can learn from your failures. And it's crazy because what happens is people go out there not afraid to go out there and they end up accidentally making more sales and they're like, oh crap, and it becomes this funny thing. It's like, you failed really hard this week. You made more sales than you ever did in your life. I know, I failed so hard because the pressure's gone, right? And I think that
Mhm.
first point that you said is so important, that awareness. Because here's the thing, the tricky thing about self-sabotage is that most of us aren't aware we're self-sabotaging until we've already done it. That's the tricky
Mhm.
thing about self-sabotage. And so that first step is probably the most important thing. Where is perfectionism stopping you? And are you willing to take ownership? It's like, yep, I've held myself back. I stopped myself from achieving what it is that I want to do, or being where I want to be in life, or taking my business to the next level because of perfectionism. That's the first step. It's like admitting you're an alcoholic. It's like, I'm addicted to perfectionism and I have to admit it.
And it's interesting, I want to say, because our cultures in here sometimes is create perfection. Is
Hmm.
keep push that. Say, oh, look how hard you work. That will be good. But we want to work smart instead of work hard, right?
Hmm.
In my generation, when I grew up, and myself in my generation, sounds I'm really old.
You're right.
But when I grew up in China, my parents keep telling me, and everybody say, you need to work so hard. If you don't work hard, you wouldn't get where you want.
Hmm.
Yes, we now I think the young kids it's definitely different the way
Hmm.
to think. Not say they don't work hard. I think work smart is more
Hmm.
important than
Right.
work hard.
Yeah. I think the challenge right now with this generation is they know they need to work hard in a direction, but they're trying to pick the perfect direction before they start working hard. So it's a different type of perfectionism. So now they're like, no, this isn't right. This isn't right. And it's like, well, I'm saving my energy when I finally decide what my purpose and what my goal is. And the reality is when you're young, you you need to explore what you're capable of. So taking
Mhm.
imperfect action, which is number four, right? Taking imperfect action towards towards the target. Because as long as you're walking north, even if you're slightly northeast or northwest, if you just keep going north, you'll eventually get there. Who cares if you meander your way there, as long as you're moving forward, right? Not
Yes,
doing
I think the
180
number
something, right?
two is also very, very important. Is not waiting for the perfect the time.
Yeah.
You will be never wait something be perfect. If you want to do that, just go ahead and do it. As you enjoy the process, or
Hmm.
you in the process when you make mistake, when you
Hmm.
can learn from that mistake.
Hmm.
That is really important. Then after you're done, not just keep looking forward what is having achieved and celebrate what you
Hmm.
already learned. Okay, I think it's not that's a mistake. I wouldn't do that anymore. Like last year, I was doing some project. This year, I doing same project, but way faster, way more effective,
Hmm.
because in that process, I
Hmm.
learned so much.
Right. Right. Yeah. And that's why they say stop and smell the roses. What they're saying is, if you think about it, and it's funny because I talked to a guy who specialized in horticulture and he grew roses and he had rose gardens and everything like that. And he was so busy. And one season I stopped and instead of telling, hey, you got to stop and smell the roses, because that's what everybody was telling him and he was annoyed by that. I asked him, hey, how do your roses smell this year? He goes, oh my God, I haven't smelled them this year. I was like, do you remember what they smelled like last year? He goes, oh my God. I was like, yeah, I love the smell of roses. Can you tell me? He goes, I'll do that. And it's a subtle shift, but so many of us when we decide to work hard, we work so hard and yeah, we don't honor ourselves into celebrating what we've accomplished, however big or small. There is no right or wrong or good or bad. And then one thing I want to say that everything's always in divine order. Consequence is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just the amount of consequences we experience when we make certain decisions. If we can let go of the good, bad, right, wrong, we can start to let go of that perfectionism.
Definitely. So this is soon will be end our episode soon. So we will just want to see if you are the person who is how to say concentrated then stress about how to move forward. Then
Hmm.
just to be aware about what is holding you back. Maybe that perfectionism is one
Hmm.
of them.
Right, right. If after you make certain choices and years down the road, you look back at that first step and you look back and you don't go, oh, that was a terrible first step, then you probably got stuck in analysis paralysis, perfectionism. So Just know that as you grow, you will look back lovingly and say, oh, it's a good thing I did it back then, but wow, what a big difference. That way you can recognize the growth and truly honor and love on yourself and stop sabotaging yourself from the greatest expression of you.
Definitely. So get ready to shift your mindset and take imperfectional actions. Imperfectional actions.
Imperfect action. Yeah. Become
Imperfect
perfectly
actions.
imperfect. Be the
Yes.
Mona Lisas of the world.
And celebrate every step forward.
Yeah.
That can unlock your really potential and make progress that truly matters.
Yeah.
So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Wei. And before we close this, if you like, make comments about what is your professionals that's holding you back, and what do you do to break free with that. We help this episode will be give you some ideas to move forward with your success. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Have a great
Thank you,
week.
Wei.